We live in a world with rapidly advancing technology. As a result, our world is more dependent on technology than it has ever been before. This technology is created for the so-called normal people in our world. However, this idea of normalcy is used to create our technology at the expense of people with disabilities who are still expected to function normally in a world that is dependent on technology that was not made for this. Zdenek says that this able-bodied norm can make invisible and justify the exclusion of any differences related to disability. Technology that is created only for able-bodied people reinforces the binary between able-bodied people and people with disabilities. The medical model views disability as a binary. They see disability as a result of an intrinsic physical condition and only label a person as disabled if they fit the requirements listed in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, as well as any other official medical guidelines. Under the medical model, a person with autism or a hearing impairment would be considered disabled, while a person with a stutter would still be considered able-bodied. However, this binary between able-bodied people and people with disabilities is not focused on in disability studies and technical communication. Instead, the space between able-bodied and disabled is viewed as a spectrum. This means that a person can be neither able-bodied or have a disability and can instead be somewhere in between. Some people who exist in the middle of this spectrum could be said to have a situational disability. This means they could have an impairment, activity limitation, or participation restriction that only affects them in certain circumstances and is not defined as a disability under the medical model. A person who is otherwise able-bodied may experience pain in her hands and wrists when she works at a computer all day. Because of this, she works more slowly when she is in pain. The medical model would not view her situation as a disability, but her work on her computer is still more difficult as a consequence of her hand pain. This would be considered a situational disability in disability studies and technical communication. Both people with medically defined disabilities and situational disabilities or other impairments can benefit by alteration to technology to increase their accessibility. It is the job of technical communicators to consider both people with disabilities and situational disabilities as a fundamental part of the initial design process rather than just an afterthought.